Welcome back to the Why Music podcast, where we talk to independent artists about their journeys, the inspirations behind their music, and ultimately why they make music. After several months away, we are back in action with a new and exciting guest today. This next artist is an Ohio-born pop singer-songwriter who belongs on every one of your playlists. Focused on wearing her lyrics on her sleeve and building momentum with every release, there's truly no stopping her. Welcome, Kelsey.
Hi. Oh my God, that was so sweet. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Excited to have you. I always like to start with where your music journey kind of all began.
Yeah, that's a great question. When I was younger, I was always kind of in this like entertainment space. I used to act a little bit as a kid, and I always kind of found myself like loving the entertainment portion of the world. And I sang a lot when I was little, but it was either something like you knew me for or you had no idea that I did it. And it was funny, but I like to say that I like to say that I started writing songs at about like 9 years old. It sounds really strange, but I promise it's true. Like the best example I have of it is like when you're a little kid and you're bored in class, you're doodling, you're talking to friends, you're throwing paper. I was writing songs in a notebook in the corner of the classroom. And we still have some of them, which is even crazier. But yeah, I started to do that and I realized that I really had this like lust and passion for music and singing and just being in that industry. And I started seriously writing when I was about 14, 15 years old. And then I wrote my first song, I Hate Strangers, when I was 17, and I recorded it my first week in college when I was about 18. And that was in 2022, so a little bit ago.
You know, as soon as you said as a kid, I was like, you think the doodles on the notebook, you don't think
Yes.
lyrics at that
Yeah.
age.
No, it's definitely interesting. I was definitely weird. I was definitely weird as a kid. I've never met anybody else that did that, and I kind of kept it to myself. But it definitely is like a part of me and like my musical journey, I guess you could say. So I'm okay with it now.
We've accepted the weirdness at this point.
Yeah, no, we definitely have. Yeah.
So, at what point in just kind of writing for the sake of writing did it become, writing songs like more, I don't want to say legitimately, but like more seriously, more intentionally to, like, how did you kind of transition it from, hey, this is something that I'm just kind of doing to something that you're taking seriously and you're kind of, going forth with the artist thing?
Yeah. Um, I want to say that in high school, writing and music kind of became like diary entries almost. They became like my safe space of being able to write down something that happened or something that I felt. And it was a different way for me to kind of express those emotions and tell those stories and just compartmentalize things. And so I think the moment I did that, you know, and they were just little songs here and there. And I remember even friends in high school that I was very sacred about them, but I would show a couple of them to them, and they really liked them, and it was something that they were like, oh, I relate to this, which is something I never thought I'd hear, honestly. But like, it is like the little things about being a writer and allowing somebody else to relate to your work and maybe helping somebody else in the process is a really big thing for me. So once I figured out that like my writing could kind of do that, I was like, oh, we're definitely we definitely should get more serious in the writing department. But
So it went from, hey, this just kind of happened, hey, this is kind of fun, to, oh wait, we can actually like, wait, this is secretly like a method of communication here.
yeah. Yeah. No, it was definitely like an awakening experience. Like when I was younger, I always, like I said, I was always kind of in the entertainment space. I always knew that I was going to end up in this realm, and I knew from a very, very young age that I was going to end up in this realm. And I am really, really picky about my writing. I'm picky about word choice. I'm picky about syllables and melodic patterns. Like anything that has to do with it, I'm so detailed with. So thank you for asking questions about writing because I very rarely get to talk about it.
Well, I have another writing question then for you.
Beautiful. Okay.
Um, what do you find most often inspires your writing?
That's a good question. What most often inspires my writing are honestly real life situations that I go through. Every single piece of work that you hear from me is authentic to something that happened. I do not fabricate anything. And I think authenticity is a really big part of being a successful artist, and also, within that writing area, it's very prominent there. And so, yeah, I think I just get my inspiration from everything that happens in my life. Again, like these songs are still, in a way, like personal diary entries. So you guys get to hear it all.
Putting our lives completely on blast at this
We
point.
really are. No, it really is. Yeah. Yeah. It really is that way. Yeah.
For better or for worse, right?
Right. Right.
Do you find that there's anything I I get 100% the I write about my life answer to that, but I always like to try and make it a little like, go a little bit further. Is there anything in particular, like any specific aspect of the lived experience, if you will, that you find easier to write about than other things? Like, is there a certain aspect? Because I mean, as human beings, there's constantly so many things going on, constantly so many like there's we're multifaceted individuals. Is there any aspect of your life or of yourself that you find easiest or like you most gravitate towards writing about?
Yeah, for sure. I think the it's very interesting that you say that. I think specific emotions are what are easiest to write about, which is a weird way to categorize that. But the emotion of sadness and the emotion of, like, I want to say probably desperation and just being in that world is the easiest thing for me to write about. I feel like they're such simple yet like complex emotions when you look at them deeper, and I really try to kind of unravel that within lyricism that I write, and kind of just try to, like, you know, open up what that really means. And so I think I gravitate towards those the most, which is probably again a weird way to categorize that, but
No, I desperation was not a word I necessarily would have anticipated. You don't probably hear that one. Like it's like you hear the more general, like when you said sad,
yeah,
I'm like, okay, for sure. Because I always say that you're not it's always easier to write sad music than it is happy music because when you're happy, you're just focused on enjoying that. When you're
right.
sad, it's like, hey, we need to deal with this. And maybe if I talk about it, maybe if I write about it, then we can deal with it and then toss it to the side. Like as soon as there's a song
Yeah.
about it, then it's like, oh, that case is closed, right? But desperation's an interesting, like, I
Yeah.
don't want to say spin on, but that's like in the sad umbrella.
Yeah.
But like that's a nice, it's a different
Thank
word.
you. Thank you.
Um, if you had to create a new genre around your style of music, what would it be called?
Oh wow. I've never gotten that question. Um, what would it be called? I don't know. Maybe, okay, this may sound like really off, but this is what I'm getting in this moment. Maybe like diary pop, in the sense like I
Okay.
can name a couple artists that would fit in that category that I'd also be like, yeah, this is pop music that I will hear on the radio, but if I took the background of it away, it probably is somebody just scribbling in a diary. I'd probably call it diary pop. That's a great question. I've never heard that before. I've also never thought about that, so thank you.
No, thank you. I like asking that, and I think that's probably the least favorite question or the favorite question that I get all the time
Yeah.
because it's not something that everybody thinks about. And so it's like you're really making me like have to come up with something out of thin air right now.
Yeah.
But you walk away with a nice little piece of branding right there. You
Yes.
have your own
Yes.
little
For
category.
sure.
You have a bucket to put yourself in that you don't have to bring anybody else in with you. It can be your own thing. It's your own little
Exactly.
pathway. But I I like that, and that's usually the approach that I try and tell people to take is like think of what world you're in sonically, and then what would you add to that that makes it fit
Yeah.
more specifically what you're doing? Because pop is so, as more time goes on, everything gets so much broader and broader.
Yeah.
Pop is like you could play 100 different pop songs and none of them could sound alike, like even
For sure.
remotely. So having that extra little, and it has the writing piece then to it too. It
Yes.
gets the like, hey, pop gives you the sound, you know what it's going to sound like. You get that vibe. But the diary is like, hey, we're just kind of stream of consciousness with this. We're
Yeah.
just kind of rattling off things and putting a melody to it and calling it a day, you know?
Yeah.
So, well, who else would you put in that category? You said you had a couple others you think would fit.
Yeah. The first person that comes to mind, I think, is probably Olivia Rodrigo. I think a lot of her stuff is very much that way, and I love her, and I love her artistry for that. I think another good one is Madison Beer.
Okay.
She is such a phenomenal artist, and she does a lot of like that mainstream pop sound, but like when you look at other songs like that she does, or even like some of those, the lyricism is great. I feel like those are two artists, like at least off the top of my head, that could definitely fit into the category of diary pop. I feel like they do really well there.
That's no, I think you can make a case for both of those. Olivia Rodrigo feels more on the nose for that.
Mm-hmm.
Madison Beer, I was a little taken aback by just because I feel like Olivia Rodrigo was when she put out whatever the purple album is called.
That's or sour.
Yes, yeah, Sour was
Sour.
the first. Yeah,
Sour
yeah,
was
yeah.
the first one. Okay,
Yeah, that's
yes.
yeah, that one. When she put that one out, that where there was the piece of the Taylor Swift song that was in there, and she was very
Yeah.
synonymous with that because for whatever reason, like she was supposed to be like the next kind of like
Yes.
writing that way, and you think that's that lyricism is the Taylor Swift thing and everything, and so you think that with artists like that. But Madison Beer, I always thought was more, and I'm not as well versed in her stuff, but she was more one that struck me first sonically and lyrically second. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
like Olivia Rodrigo, you would make more the case for the other way around.
Yeah.
So, it's a different take on it because it's like, it's just that one I'm on board with that take.
Okay.
But but I wasn't expecting that take.
No, no, that's okay. I mean, I think one thing about me is I'm always a master per se, but I'm also always a student. I'm always studying other artists, and like I love, at surface level, I love different artists sonically, but again, the lyricism and the writing is what really kind of keeps me around. And I think I've been a Madison Beer fan for quite a while, but I think, her writing has just gotten better over time, especially in some of like her more like deep songs that are not very like pop based.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I feel like I definitely could make a case for it. I know it definitely doesn't like feel like it top of the head, but I understand your thought process.
No, I mean you're in the Madison Beer category. You are more an expert than myself for
Okay.
sure. So I will take your word for it on that. Yeah. I mean, I always like she was one that I would lean more. Maybe this is also a bad example, and this is maybe also just an example of I'm not very well versed in it, and so this is why I'm thinking this. But like Tate McRae, I would think
Yeah,
that she's more like you're sold on her songs more sonically than necessarily the contents of it because of
yeah,
how intricately it can be packaged. Like her stuff is like there's a lot going on production wise and things like that. So I always would lean Madison Beer more in that
yeah,
category than in the Olivia Rodrigo category. But your answer doesn't necessarily like it doesn't give two people of the same cut from the same cloth. It gives two different takes on one individual answer, I guess.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand where you're coming from too, though. Tate is also another phenomenal artist that I love and adore, and I can totally understand where you're making the case of kind of leaning Madison over there. I feel like Madison, I think it's safe to say she does a good job in both lanes, but yeah, just another great artist.
Well, now you're telling me here now that I need to go back and like listen, give them a little bit more credit, and give them some,
Maybe,
let them
maybe.
make their case. Let them make their
Yeah,
case, right?
fair enough.
Um, on that same kind of note, because we're talking kind of about, artists you're fans of and things like that, do you ever find that, like, if you ever get in a heavy rotation of a certain artist's catalog, do you ever find that that then shows through in the way that you write? Like, do you ever like
Absolutely.
write a song and then you're like, this feels very like so and so coded?
Yeah, I'm again a question I never get that I'm so happy to talk about because yes, that absolutely does happen. I do these things with myself called writing exercises, and I do these like once a month. And essentially, what I do is if I'm listening to a lot of, we'll use Tate. If I'm listening to a lot of Tate for some reason that month, once a month, I'll sit down and I'll write a song and I'll be like, okay, let's pretend that I'm Tate or I'm Tate's team writing a song and I have to write a song for Tate McRae. And it's a writing exercise to see how expansive my genre work can get. So I've done it with Tate. I can do it. I've done it with Noah Khan, who's in folk pop. I've done it with Taylor. I've done it with Sabrina, who's in bubblegum, pop and that type of behavior. And it helps me, you know, learn new things and it helps me keep my writing expanding like all the time in every genre that I can get my hands in. So yeah, I definitely do find that the musicians I listen to influence how I write.
So you're doing it intentionally.
Yes.
Okay. Not just kind of happenstance. I'm always, because like I always find that
Yeah.
if I if I'm like, find somebody new or whatever it is, I'm like, I'll write something, then I look back at it and I'm like, this feels very like this
Yeah,
person's
this person.
influence on what I'm trying to do here.
Yeah.
It's
That
always
definitely
interesting how that,
happens.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it definitely happens on accident too, where I'll like find myself being like, oh, I feel like maybe Tate would write this, or Tate would, or Noah
Hmm.
Khan would do this. It definitely does happen on accident. I think a lot of musicians do that. I mean, everybody, in my opinion, everybody gets inspiration from everybody all the time. So it definitely does happen. But yeah, the writing exercises are a big part of like me as a writer and keeping like my craft that way as well.
Right.
So thank you
No,
for that question.
no, I think that that's a cool thing to try and do, because then you can, like, because I think it also, depending on how you look at it, it can give you a tighter perspective on how they've crafted their brands through
Yeah.
writing, and how, you can, like, I like personally, like, I'm a big John Bellion fan. And it's like
Okay.
I know I can hear when he's worked on the song. Like, because I've listened to so much of his stuff, it's like I know, like, this has him in it.
Yeah.
And so it's like with artists, you can kind of catch the same thing with, you see, I mean, people just naturally are going to have a tendency to do things in a way that's familiar, in a way that they're
Yeah.
comfortable with. And so when you watch that motion in repeat, where, you're listening to more of their music, you're just basically consuming different versions of the same process. You can kind of get a sense of how they've painted this larger picture with all these little individual pieces. And so I think from a brand and from an artistry perspective as well, that's something that can be really helpful. And like you said, it's something that keeps you trying to do new things and experimenting with new different things. And maybe you find something in somebody you wouldn't have expected, that an aspect of the way that they write and the way that they've crafted their songs that you gravitate towards and want to carry past that. Like, it doesn't have
For
to just
sure.
be a one and done experience because you tried to do this way this one time. It can be something that you learn and then instill moving forward.
For sure. No, I definitely agree with that. I think regardless of if it's intentional or not, it's all growing and development as an artist and as a writer if you choose to be on that path. Um, and yeah, I think you could take away a lot of different things from it. So I
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah, and to what you said is like everybody's inspired by everything. I think like you can make there's the case to be made that there's no such thing as like an original idea anymore. It's just I mean everybody's a product of their environments and their, experiences and everything like that. So whether you're trying to write like so and so or not, like if you've listened to them a few times, there's probably a hint of it in there.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
just sometimes may not be as obvious as others or yeah. So that's how it is, and that's how we get genres that are so widespread now is because
Right.
as more people start popping up that are products of these, it's like a family tree. Ultimately, it's like everything
Yes.
just keeps kind of spreading out more and more as you go down. So it's never ending.
No. No, it's not.
It's always
Especially not in the
expanding.
pop world. No, it's never
No,
ending. Oh no.
no, no. Yeah. Is there a song that you've written that you think best embodies who you are as an artist? Your one song sample of like, if you have,
Wow.
your elevator pitch, but in the form of a song. Like if you're trying to get somebody to be your next fan, what's the song that we use to bring them in?
That's a really good question. Um, okay, so the first song that comes to mind is a song called Matching Tattoos. Matching Tattoos was written in a coffee shop in 2023. It's a song that I hold very, very close to my heart, and the writing for it, this song was never, truth be told, this song was never supposed to see the light of day. And I ended up playing a demo to old friends of mine, and they were like, "You have to do something with this." So I went in and I recorded it. And again, I did not know if I was going to put this out or not. Um, and it ended up out. And it's a lot of people's favorite songs. I think separate, that one really encompasses writing. I think maybe a different one that's maybe not so writing based would probably be mm, probably Playing Our Cards. I think would be a good one. Everybody really, really loves that one. But sonically, I feel like that does a lot to describe me in the sense that we have both mellow parts of the work, we have piano and we have strings in there, but we also have things like heavy synth and electric guitar and heavy drum patterns that are very vibrant and almost like rock based, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I'd probably say those two that come to mind.
So you said that those are some of the perceived favorites. Are those personal favorites?
That's a great question. I think, just great questions actually today, like crazy. Sorry. My personal favorite song that I don't want to say ever written, but it's definitely up there. Is called The Witch. It was off my second EP, Love Letters, and The Witch was an accident. The Witch, so that EP was only supposed to be 6 tracks, and I was in my college apartment. I had like, it was a really crazy weekend. I had like 15 people in my apartment, staying in my apartment, and I like needed to write. I like had an itch at like 2 in the morning. I was like, I need to write. And my cousin was in my room. She was sleeping, and she was like, "You're being too loud. Like, go somewhere else and write. I have to go to bed." So I ended up sitting on my bathroom floor in my old apartment and writing The Witch at about 2, 3 in the morning. And I think it's just one of my favorite things I've ever done lyrically. I think I really tried to focus on the poeticness of that song in terms of writing. So I think that's definitely a favorite. And I would say Car Crash, which is a recent one, is another favorite of mine sonically, just because it's a little different from things that we've done before, but I really like it. So yeah. That's
I'm always curious because I find it to be very common that the perceived like public favorite, if you will, is oftentimes not the artist
yeah,
favorite, and sometimes even the one that you're like you said about the first one, that one wasn't supposed to see the light of day. Like I put it
right.
out because I was like, well, I finished it, so I guess it should, whatever. And it's usually one of the more unpopular in the artist's mind that end up sitting at the top of the Spotify profiles is kind of the
Yeah,
trend that I've seen. For whatever reason, that seems to be the case.
yeah.
But that's why I ask.
No, it's great. I agree with you. I think I definitely see that as well. And so, yeah, again, I appreciate that question.
I mean, you get kind of like you said about the witch, like to some extent, regardless of the outcome, like there's always a part that plays in what you remember about the process. Like there are songs that you just kind of write in those unique sort of situations,
Yeah,
or they were something, or maybe it's one that's taken several different forms over however long, and there's when you're the one taking it on the journey that it goes on, that has an added element of just the experience rather than just the outcome. Like everybody
yeah,
gets to see it in the pretty package that it ends up in, but you're the one who had to watch it go through everything it took to get it there. And so sometimes there's even just that appeal of experience in that way.
agreed. Agreed. No, I have a lot of memories tied to individual songs. I definitely like, there's some songs where I can close my eyes and I can put myself back in the place that I started writing it. There's some songs that I completely forgot where I wrote them. It definitely differs between, each track, but I agree with you.
If you had to pick two or three artists that you think your music is like a combination of, who
Okay.
would it be?
That's a that's a good question too. Um, I
Not all of
always
them
say
have to be good questions. I
I know, but
appreciate it,
they
but they don't
are,
all have to be good.
but they are. Um, if I had to combine artists, um, I would probably say I'd probably start with Olivia as my
Mhm.
base. I feel like just between her writing and her type of sound, I definitely fly closer to her son over there. And maybe if it's okay, if this interview was like 2, 3 years ago, I probably would have said Paramore is my counterpart.
Okay.
Now I'd probably say, oh, I'm not sure. Probably, this sounds very cliche, but I'd probably say Taylor. I think Taylor, throughout her album, throughout her works, she's done a really good job at genre hopping. And I think we saw that, throughout her discography and her writing. I study her like nobody else. I study Taylor Swift's writing like crazy, and I think, I try to be a student of hers as much as I can. And so I probably put those two.
Do you have a third that you would throw in the mix?
Do I,
You
that's
don't
a good
have to,
question.
but it is two or three in case you wanted a third.
Okay, I'd probably say this might throw people for a loop, but I genuinely do feel this way on some things. I would probably say Billie Eilish.
Okay.
I love Billie and Phineas. Phineas, I think, as a producer, needs more flowers all the time. Phineas is, in my opinion, one of the best producers I've ever heard of in my life. And I love the way that they work with synths. I think I find that working with synths is a really tricky thing to kind of get right. And I feel like they get it right all the time. And so we definitely try to emulate that behavior when we are using synths in any work that we do. And I just relate to Billie a lot. I think I grew up with Billie in her work. I've been following her since she was on Vine. So she would have been, I think, 13. So a very good period of time. I've been following her since she was on Vine. I was there for, the EPs coming out and all of these albums. And she definitely grows with her fan base, which is something that I admire. And I think I relate to her more and more every project she puts out.
Vine's a real throwback.
Yeah. I
Now I
know I'm
feel
kind of
old.
dating myself, actually. No, that's what I'm
No, no,
saying.
no,
I'm
no,
kind
no,
of dating
no. Okay,
myself.
no. If you're dating yourself, then I've got a foot in the grave. All right.
Oh,
Don't don't say it like that.
okay.
I'm not that old, but like
No,
you
definitely
can't be the
not.
younger person in this conversation and say you're dating yourself, all right?
Fair
That's not how
enough.
this
Fair
works.
enough.
That's the old person card. I get to play
Fair enough.
it. Yeah, no, I mean, I mean, I with this is a very common thing when I have that question with girls in the pop space that are lyrically focused more than anything else, like emphasis on it, we'll tell you about it. Taylor is the name that comes out, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
So and I think I have a lot of opinions on that, but
Sure.
I think that when there's a lot to be learned, like you said, from the things that she's done and the way that she's crafted a lot of things. And I think that, it shows intention in the writing and stuff like that. And like you said, she's a great case for the genre hopping, as you put it, and you don't have to live in one sonic space forever. Like you can
Yeah.
brand yourself here and then move on to something else. It's just a matter of packaging that moment and
Yeah.
that product at the time, and then we can move on. Have that coherency where it currently stands, and then just see where it goes from there. As a branding person, that is one thing that I will give her a whole lot of
Yeah.
credit for, because I mean, it's a great case, because it's like I think artists always worry about pigeonholing themselves into one specific area. Like when you try to articulate who you are and what you're doing, and um, you know, musically how your sound is, what your sound is, because that's always a thing.
Yeah.
It becomes very like the decision I make now feels like it's like leaving college. It's like I have to decide what I'm supposed to do for the rest of my life, like now. Like,
Yeah.
how is
For
that
sure.
supposed to be a thing? And so it's a good case for you can do whatever you want for right now and know
Yeah.
that you can move on to something else later. Like years from now, you could be completely in a different realm than the diary
Yeah.
pop that we've proclaimed you to be in now.
Yeah. Very
So
true. Very true.
who knows where it might go? That's just where it is
Yeah.
right now. So, and like you said, if you would have answered this a few years ago, it would have been a different answer than it would be now. And
Yeah.
that's a completely acceptable thing. We're people, we change, we grow, we
Yeah.
develop thoughts and opinions and perspectives all change with it.
Yeah.
So
No.
why shouldn't answers change, right?
Yes. No, I definitely agree. That was a great way to put that. Yes. No, I definitely agree. I definitely think that my sound has kind of developed over the years, and I think that goes hand in hand with writing. As my writing has developed, my sound has kind of changed to develop with it, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think there's a lot of artists out there that do it. There's a lot of people in mainstream that do it, and I think genre hopping is not it's not a bad thing. So,
Yeah. No, because I mean, you either can, and if you stay in that same lane, that's fine. Most people don't. And if you pigeonhole yourself in there and say, hey, this is what I've been doing, so this is what I have to continue to do, you're going to be creating friction between who you think you're supposed to be and who you actually want to be.
right.
And that's not going to help you deliver the product at the level that you did before. Because if
Right.
you force yourself to make something, you're putting a square peg in a circle hole, right? You're not letting that be what it's supposed to be. It's you write what you know, you create what you know. If you want to try something new and venture into that, do it. There's no wrong answers. As much as sometimes we
No.
would like there to be right answers, there's no wrong
Right.
answers.
No,
So,
it's definitely a more complex thing. that I think a lot of people look into. It definitely, there's layers to a lot of these things, so I appreciate that that's, a narrative that we're able to have, because I know a lot of people in arts that don't really dive into that side of
Mhm.
things. So
Yeah, it's not a matter of what you're packaging or what you're doing. It's like with branding, it's and with artistry and all those things, it's do like make the choice, create the thing, but then package it and embrace it to the best of your ability. That's all
yeah,
there is to it, really.
yeah,
Because anything other than that loses that authenticity, and who wants that?
right, agreed.
Um, this is where I get to ask a question from a previous artist. The thing is
Okay,
it's been so long, I don't remember if this one was the one that was asked last time or written last time, but I
that's
liked the
okay.
question, so I held on to it anyway.
Okay, perfect.
So what is your current favorite album and why?
My current favorite that I'm listening to.
Whatever, however you want to take that. Current,
Okay,
if you want to pull a throwback, whatever, date yourself again if you really
let
want
me.
to.
No, I could do my. Um.
However you want to play that.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna say. Probably this is just one of my favorite albums. Period. That has helped me through so many things. The album is gonna be "Kids" by Mac Miller. I have such a deep connection and just I don't know, just such a deep energy for Mac and his music. And Kids got me through my first year of college, which was just so crazy. It was such a transition, but I think in that period of time, I was able to connect with Mac and his music more than probably ever prior. And so that album is forever like a favorite album. It'll forever have a place in my heart. So,
I think that's a valid answer. I mean,
yeah.
yeah, for the time that he spent doing music, like, everybody talks about his stuff.
Yes. Mac is a legacy. Mac and his work will live on forever. I had the amazing and wonderful honor and privilege of working with Big Germ, his producer in Pittsburgh, in his studio ID Labs in 2022. I want to say, yeah, end of 2022, beginning of 2023. So it's been some time. But Germ was such a welcoming individual. He was so nice and he was so professional, and just the energy that's in that studio is it's crazy. It's so vibrant and warm. That's like the best way I can describe it. And Mac, while I unfortunately never got to know him personally, he creates this relatable and warm energy through his work. And I could feel it in the studios, and I'll just forever have a tie to Mac and his work. And so, yeah, he's definitely a top artist for me.
What is your question for the next artist?
Oh, that's
It's
good
your turn to come up with something that we're going to qualify as a good
a
question.
good question. Okay. Oh gosh. Oh no. Um
You set the bar high with all the compliments of my questions. Now you have to come up
yes.
with your own.
Oh no. Okay. Maybe okay, so does this artist, whoever this is, do they have vault tracks? And if so, how many?
Vault. I thought you said volt, and I'm like,
Vault.
what's a volt
No,
track?
vault. No. Do they have vault tracks? And if so, how many? I feel like that's an interesting question to see.
How many are you sitting on?
Oh, hundreds. Hundreds. Hundreds and hundreds. I always go back to like two or three songs that were written in, I want to say 2019, 2020, that were just really like premature. I always go back to these tracks in like thinking that I might pull them out of the vault, but I never do. Maybe one day, but not right now. But yeah, no, I find vault tracks really interesting. I think it the amount of the amount of vault tracks you accumulate over the years as an artist, but also as a writer, it's very cool to look back and just like see the progression of things.
Yeah, no, I think and I think it's always interesting because I think I always believe that what's meant to be out finds its way out.
Yes.
And so the ones that you sit on are like, and like if you're ever writing and you try to go back through whatever you just came up with and you lose that line like mentally, like
Yeah.
it's just, oh, I had it and now it's gone. Um, that, if it was meant to be, it'll be. So that gives you the opportunity to write something different, write something better, write something that makes more sense for the song. Those kinds of things. It's like if they come, like, there could be ones that you've been sitting on for 5 years that then find their way out.
Yeah.
It just wasn't like whatever's meant to happen with them will happen with them.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, I mean, it's like Ed Sheeran said it. It's like you have to write a bunch of stuff in order to write stuff that's good because you can't like
Yes.
not everything you write is worth releasing, and that's okay
Agreed.
because it's just like, you know, not every dish you cook is going to be the best thing that you make. Like you're going to try
Yeah.
different things. You're gonna, like it's a part of the process. Plus,
Yeah.
how rewarding would it be to have something that you're proud of and willing to release if everything you wrote met that standard, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like you have to have bad days to have good days. You have to
Yeah.
experience things that aren't quite up to par in order to have a par and then have something that goes beyond par.
Yeah, no, I think you said that really well. I got lucky. We were able to do that with one of my songs, Fit the Crime, that was released earlier this year. Fit the Crime was actually a vault track that was written in 2022. I didn't do anything with this song at the time because I felt like it didn't really sound like me. It didn't feel very me. And then I kept revisiting it in terms of writing, like for all the years in between that. And then I was like, you know what? Let's just record it. Let's just record it and let's see what we can make out of it. And I got really lucky to, be able to fall back in love with the song again. So it definitely does happen where you have good days and bad days. And I just like the idea of revisiting work. And I think, you're like you said, if they're meant to go, they're meant to go. If they're not, they're not. And
Right.
it works out.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it's if something pulls you back to it, there's probably a reason you're pulled back to it. Like you said, like,
Yeah.
let's just see what happens. There's no harm in that. Like, see what comes
Yeah.
out of it, see what you can do with it. Because there's always, and maybe it'll show its true colors that, hey, that's just not it. But maybe
Yeah.
it'll turn into a nice silver lining that you weren't quite anticipating. That's just how it goes. So, again, there's no right and wrong with it because you can kind of do whatever and kind of put out whatever, but there is some sort of like instincts with this is it, this isn't it, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah. What is it that you think sets you apart from other independent artists?
Oh, I don't want to say it's a good question, but I really never have gotten this like in depth of questions before. So pardon my like
Your compliments? No, I'll take the compliment.
Okay. Something
I
that
just
sets
think
me
it's
apart.
funny.
Yeah, no, something that sets me apart. Again, I think I'm just gonna have to come back to writing. I think writing is one of my strongest assets. I think, you know, I'm very picky about, like I said earlier, I'm very picky about word choice. I'm very picky about syllables. I'm very picky about rhyme schemes, like to the point where it's like almost absurd, like where I will stare at a word for like literally months and be like, I can't figure out what word there. And I will not go and make a demo or anything or any, I won't even touch it sonically until I fix that portion of it. So I think I'm insane, first of all, but I think I'm insane, first of all, but I think my writing sets me apart. And also, I think probably my part of my aesthetic that's kind of set in this nostalgic type of behavior. I've always been a very big chronically online person. And I was chronically online when I probably shouldn't have been on the internet realistically. But I was a huge part of the Tumblr phase. I was a huge part of like 2015 and 2016 Instagram and like those color schemes and like the filters that are now, right now at least, being somewhat attempted to be revived. I feel like there's a lot of nostalgic in that era that I try to replicate as much as I can in terms of visuals and stuff like that. So yeah, probably writing and nostalgia.
Tumblr, you're dating yourself again.
I know. See, that's what I said. I know. I love Tumblr. I love Tumblr. I was like literally on Tumblr when I was like 12 years old. Like I definitely shouldn't have been on Tumblr, but it's like fine. It's fine.
That's one of those things that it's like, it's definitely died, but it's I mean, Vine got replaced with TikTok, right? Like Vine
Yeah.
was TikTok before TikTok was a thing. Tumblr never really got something that followed suit.
No,
You know,
it
it
kind
never
of
really
just
had
like,
a follow up. So there's that, just like there's that
yeah,
missing piece of that there now.
yeah,
Yeah, that's everybody's a sucker for a little nostalgia, right?
yeah, for sure. No, for sure. And it definitely shows, I think, being somebody that's big into marketing and branding and just, again, being chronically online. It definitely shows in the trends that we see come up again and again. And, you know, history will repeat itself, things will rework themselves as time goes on. But I think over the past couple years, you've seen this huge surge of nostalgia coming from places that aren't even that old. You know, I feel like Tumblr and like all that stuff, it doesn't feel that old to me. I feel even like people have such nostalgia for 2020 and have such nostalgia for 2019, and I do as well, but it wasn't that long ago. I feel like we're definitely seeing a surge of that emotion that I try to hit on really well. So hopefully it pays off for me.
Yeah, I mean I think we've had a lot of um I mean there's been a lot that's happened, and nostalgia for I don't know that nostalgia is the right word for 2020, but
Fair enough. Fair enough.
it might be a different way to look back at that.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's I don't know that there's a time period or time um I don't know, mark you have to hit for something to qualify as
Yeah.
nostalgia, like, or
I'm not
applicable
sure.
to that, but I think I get what you're saying. That makes sense. What impact do you want to have with your music and with your artistry?
Oh, um, so my goal impact wise is to help somebody relate through music. I think growing up, I wouldn't be where I am without certain artists existing. I wouldn't, you know, go through with a career without certain artists existing. You know, there were so many times, and still now, that I feel like I can't find anybody that relates to this emotion, or I can't find anybody that relates to this situation. And there'll be some song that does. somebody out there that I look up to, somebody out there that I idolize artist wise, you know, they probably wrote it and it's probably sitting, you know, on a DSP ready to be listened to. And I just, I wouldn't be anything if it were not for music. I wouldn't be anything if it wasn't for these artists. Everything is about music for me. It always has been. And so, yeah, I think my impact is I want to be that artist for somebody else. I want somebody else who, could be in a different country, could be in a different state, a different city, find me in a time that they need support like that and, become that artist for them, hopefully.
Yeah, no, and I think I think a big foundation for why we can relate to music in how all these different ways is, the human experience is pretty universal. Like we all experience, highs and lows, grief, happiness, all these different like emotions and things. A lot of those big life moments are things that everybody has the opportunity to go through at least probably once.
Yeah.
And with that, it's, you think about it that way, and then it's like, well, how is it that there can be so much music and so many artists that can have people that are then fans of theirs? Because if we're all saying the same things, how is it that, if you and I are saying the same things, how is it that we can both have people that are connecting to that? Well, the thing
Yeah.
is with your artistry is you're communicating then with the people that understand it and can, like are speaking your language, if you will. Like you're going to say things differently than I am. We might be trying to say the exact same thing, but it's going to look different. We're going to package it differently. We're going to write the actual words differently. Some of us are going to sit on those words a little bit longer than others. And it's because we're all trying to say the same things, but packaging it in our own perspective, in our own way. And that's what allows for that sort of, widespread, you could make the argument for oversaturation that is the
Yes.
music landscape. And
Yes.
so it's like, by you want to have that impact, but it's you're using your voice to say things in the way that you understand them, fully knowing that there's going to be other people that are going to hear the words the way that you're saying them, and maybe they've heard them packaged differently before, but it's the way you're saying it now is what's going to resonate and what's going to connect in that way. It's like I said, we're all trying to say a lot of the same things. Like, how many different breakup songs are there out there, right? How many
Right.
different stories
Right.
are there about, he broke up with me, or, he cheated on me, or like, you lose somebody, or like, it's a great day, like all these different things, very universal experiences. But the words that you choose might just be better for me than the words that somebody else chose.
Exactly.
And that's just how it lands.
Yeah.
I always make a case for there is a home for every artist and every song in someone's ears. It's just a matter in which of finding it. It's
Right.
not, and that's why we play that's why it's a long game. Everybody
It
wants this
definitely
instant
is.
gratification, but it's a long game because
Yeah.
you have to get in front of all these people to even, you have to basically make your case for being that, be their ears being home for your music.
Yeah.
So that's my soapbox moment for the time
Yeah.
being.
No, I think you put that really well. I think there definitely is a fan base for every artist. There is somebody out there that relates to your words more than others, and that's just my goal of finding people that really really need artists like I had. I want to become the role models and become the artists that I look up to for other people, and yeah.
It's a passing the torch kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that brings us to the final question, which is ultimately the concept behind the podcast, which is why music?
Why music? Um, I personally feel like, like I previously said, I would not probably be sitting here without music. I wouldn't have a career without music. I wouldn't have, you know, the experiences that I've had without music. I think music, regardless of if you're listening to it in headphones or you're going to see it live, is one thing that, you know, keeps people related. It allows people to relate to each other in mass spaces and in mass quantities that other things like sometimes you can't really do. Like with film, and I did acting for so long when I was younger. With film, I've met 10 people who have the same favorite movie, but they're different people. But I can meet 10 people that have the same favorite artists, and I can find that their main focal point of their personality is that they're similar. And I fear that that is a reason why big artists keep getting bigger. You keep finding those people that continue to just kind of grab onto others that they can assimilate with. Music is the only thing I've ever known, I think, that's ever done that for me. And being able to, like I said, help artists in the way that past artists have helped me is like it's all worth it to me.
No, I think you make a good point. Is it's I was as like just as you were coming upon it, I was also thinking like I think, you know, y- I have friends that have music tastes similar to mine, and I have friends that don't. And I feel like the ones that are in that same category, I can communicate more straightforwardly with
Yeah.
versus like the other ones. I'm like, I know we're saying the same things, and we're trying to say the same things, and we're trying to be on the same page, but like, you can see those differences because it's like we're saying, like the way that you're writing is basically the way you're trying to communicate said thing. So if that's what you're connecting with and that's what other people are connecting with, there's already that common ground of like we're kind of seeing this the same way. And we're able to be on the same page just kind of by default.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I
No.
mean that's music is built different. It just
Yeah,
is.
it's built different, and to every artist out there that's ever helped me, thank you. This is a huge thank you to all of these artists. I think it's really interesting to see, like what, these artists that I look up to, or anybody looks up to, what they go through, and still, you know, if it wasn't for them being them, they wouldn't have the work that they do, and it wouldn't have helped me or thousands of other people that I know or that I've heard talk about it as well. I just think music is one of the best things that humans ever kind of came up with. So it's super awesome and honoring to be a part of that.
Yeah, no, it's cut from a different cloth, to say the
Yes,
least. So
100%.
awesome. Well, on that note, I think that brings us to the end of this episode of the Why Music podcast. You can check back again next week for another conversation with another independent artist. Thanks for listening.